Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 1135 for the 3rd of April. Just now I was helping to research a little bit on the Bucha stuff, and I was looking through the archive, the videos I've done in early the war in 2022. And I watched some of the old footage, or some of the old reports, and I realized I talk so slow. I talk so differently, in 2022. So drastic difference. You should go and check it out. The playlist is in the playlist. I've unlisted them, so they're in the playlist. So you can go and check it out. It's very interesting to watch how DPA have evolved over the years. And it's a lot more chill. And so much more things is uncertain during the war. In the early days of the war, like a lot of analysis is needed. A lot of hypothesis. Yeah, very different, very different kind of reporting from what we have nowadays. Very interesting to look back. So anyway, just some side notes. So we're going to talk about the situation report for the past 24 hours. So we're going to start off with the Kursk front first. Over at the Kursk front, there is no other new information about the Sumy incursions by the Russians. We don't have any information about that. We still do have FPV drone strikes on Ukrainian forces. Infantry fighting vehicle at Loknia. This is probably the forward defense over Loknia, because most likely these areas are no gray zones, like no man's land. So the infantry fighting vehicle is like stationed within Loknia, and along this road at Yunakivka continues to be the road of death for Ukrainian vehicles and troops. As this is a major logistic route, and just more and more geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting hit by FPV drones and whatnot it's getting a little ridiculous. Like almost every day we have almost every day there's a geolocation of something getting hit along this road. It's getting stupid. Sometimes I almost don't feel like putting the geolocation, because it's like it's almost becoming lame. It's so repetitive. The Russian forces have been geolocated inside Goyevo. So this confirms Russians' presence inside of Goyevo, but it does not change our front line at all. So generally, strategically, we still have the same. With Russian Defense Ministry reported about, or Russian military reported that they are attacking Oleshnya, Goyevo, as well as Gorodno. So strategically, nothing have changed in this sector. The Ukrainian forces continue to be able to hold a strong position. As I say, these are very difficult places to eject the Ukrainian forces, and these are just some smaller forests. So imagine the Russians have to go into Sumy region. Yeah, this big patch of forest around Sumy is going to be one hell of a massive headache. So that's all for now. And over at the Belgorod incursion region, there is a geolocation of a Russian airstrike in Sine. In the rear positions, so there must be some kind of a rear HQ around here, maybe looking at this front line around here, and maybe even command the operations in the Belgorod sector, possible. Over at the Belgorod incursion, no Ukrainian attacks was reported. The Ukrainians continue to just hold defensive positions around Demidovka and Popovka. Russians, on the other hand, is striking or attacking Mariupolsk as well as Pokrovsk. They also reportedly shelled Petrusivka, according to the Russian military. So geolocation of drone showing Ukrainian armored vehicles at Marine, north of Marine, was noted. So that's all. Situation remains static. Nothing particularly outstanding over at the Kursk front. At the Kharkiv front, there's nothing being reported at the Kharkiv front. We move on to the Voresa front. At the Voresa front, we have some actions over in Kamyanske. This is the latest geolocation. Russian forces has been located right in the south of Kamyanske. So I need to zoom in even further. I think this is more significant. So at the south of Kamyanske, the Russian forces have now been spotted inside the city in the south, which means the Russians have successfully crossed the river in basically a third bridgehead. Basically, this is the third bridgehead. We have the first one around here. This is the first one. And then the second one is further in the southwest. So this is the third one. So this is the third bridgehead. And the Russians basically in this one just crossed the bridge or some along the Oski River, or they have some pontoon crossings and managed to now attack into the south of Kamyanske. So now confirms the start of the Battle of Kamyanske. This is our long-awaited intel about the situation in this sector. So our situation is getting very stressful, I think, for the Ukrainian forces right now in this sector. If you zoom out a bit, you can see the strategic situation. Russian forces have this bridgehead. This is the number 1 bridgehead. The number 2 bridgehead is over here with the Russian forces attacking Krasny Pershi over in the southwest and potentially going into the Voropshine forest in the west of Kamyanske. So now we have this new one coming from the south of Kamyanske, which again they cross the Oski River. So the Ukrainians clearly is overwhelmed in this sector. They are unable to hold the river lines, and the Russians managed to successfully break out from the river in multiple locations. So situation is terrible right now for Kamyanske. Strategically, this is horrible. Over in the southern flank of the Voresa front, we have fighting reported at Kindrashivka according to the Russians, and that's about it. Battle of Kindrashivka is likely happening right now, the Battle of Kindrashivka, but we have zero intel on that. So that's all from the Voresa front. Over at the Kupyansk front. So this is the Kupyansk front. And fighting is reported at Zaporizhia as well as Petropavlivka. Otherwise, nothing else was happening in this sector. Over the next front line is the Bovarr front. Bovarr front, the Russians continue their usual at Zaporizhia and Nova Krylyakivka. And over at Nadia, there is some frontline change. Also, the latest information, Ukrainian forces geolocated along this tree line at Nadia. So this confirmed the Ukrainians have captured some grounds in this sector versus what we have previously. So now the Russians probably have this forest here as well as this tree line. So it's just the Ukrainians going down this tree line. So that's all. So this Nadia. And we move on to the Liman front. So this Liman, and this is the Liman front, and in the northern sector is where all the actions are. In the northern flank, we have fighting reported at Krakivka, Novomihailivka, Katerinivka, Nove, Zelena Dolena, and Rukodo. So this frontline change at Nevsky, I have already mentioned in previous SITREP. So no, I will not rehash again. Basically, the Russians have advanced west of Bakmud, which is Nevsky, and I have just rehashed it. So as a result, happy birthday to those having birthday today. And we move on to the next front line, to the so this battle, this operation continue. And oh yeah, well, there's one more thing. The latest rumor coming from the pro-Ukrainian side, I saw on Twitter, is that, or it might be reported by some media. Oh, or is it by ISW? No, yeah. So the media quoted ISW, which is then of course posted on X, which I then read. So is that the Russian forces allegedly have 10 times the number of forces in the Liman front, and they are about to launch a major offensive in this sector, or perhaps they already launched the offensive. So because it's really hard to tell, sometimes the pro-Ukrainian sources. So probably this is the offensive that we are talking about right here. I'm not sure if the Russians will actually go for Liman, because this feels like a big jump. If they actually go for Liman, because Liman is actually not that easy to defend. Like it's easy to defend from the direction of the Russians. From Crimea. If the Russians attack from Crimea to Liman, it's easy to defend. But if you are holding Liman, then you're gonna have a massive problem because of all these forests around here, and there is a massive river and then which like there's so much place to cover in terms of defensive positions. And then the Russians previously only went as far as Svetohursk over here, and then they only went to the river and basically stopped along the river. And yeah, it was quite painful to defend Liman actually. So I don't think the Russians will go for Liman, but the most likely that the Russians, they are referring to the current offensive that is currently heading in this northern flank of the Liman front. But of course, I would definitely love to see more actions. Then I got more things to talk about. Yeah, it's in the war, like the people die, so might as well just make content out of it, right? So yeah, so don't waste their death. Yeah, that's so horrible thing to say. No war, don't fight war. The war is no good. Yeah, we can just talk about politics, is perfectly fine. Talk about politics, geopolitics, no trade war. Yeah, war is no good. People have to die for it. It's like people just suffer and don't have things to eat. It's okay, don't die, What am I talking about? Okay. Horrible jokes. It's okay. Yeah, so over at the Siversk front, we have fighting reported at Kamyanske, Ivano-Darivka, towards Siversk or shelling at Siversk, and interestingly, Vimka. Vimka is interesting because we haven't heard of Vimka for a long time. The last report was 14th of January. So we haven't have anything on Vimka for 3 months, and now it's being mentioned for the first time by the Ukrainians. Ukrainian military talked about Vimka. So there might be some kind of offensive happening, maybe in the Ivano-Darivka direction and Vimka direction. They say that they are heading towards Vimka and Ivano-Darivka. So because the Ukrainian version of events, this area here is still firmly under Ukrainian control. So they do not acknowledge the previous geolocations of Russian forces in these two regions. So which also makes the entire situation on the ground very uncertain. We have no idea what the hell is happening right here. We do not know where the front line exactly is in reality. This is the best that we have historically based on what we have previously, but might actually be inaccurate. So, or most likely is very inaccurate. So we will just wait and for more intelligence. Tentatively, we can't really know what the hell is happening. We move on to the Bakmud front. So this is Bakmud, and at the Bakmud front, we have a few. Over in the northern flank, we have fighting reported at Minkivka over here, and then over at Maro-Lubivka, as well as fighting at the Battle of Chasiv. Nothing particularly stands out per se. For those that are not entirely sure, the Battle of Chasiv continues, and Maro-Lubivka is probably coming from Chasiv direction. It is possible. It's not impossible for fighting to be reported as Maro-Lubivka, mentioned by the Russians. So Russian military talk about it. So that's all. Nothing particularly new or outstanding. There is some geolocation just off the north of Konstantinivka, at Morochavka. Yeah, getting more and more Indonesian. And so basically it's a tank getting hit by something. I didn't see the video, so no, I'm not sure. Over in the southern flank of the Bakmud front, we have fighting reported at Proteshny as well as Kudyumivka. So nothing new about this as well. We move on to the Torx front. And so just to chit chat a little bit more, I realized that I speak so much better than I was 3 years ago. So that my diction and the way how I speak English have improved. So practice make perfect. Just speak more lousy English and your English will get good. You become good English. Or the audience will get acquainted with the lousy English and their English become lousier, so they think that your English is good. That is also possible. So never give up. Influence everyone to have lousier English. So this is the Torx front. This is Torx and this is New York. And we cut it off, Torx and New York. And this is Dick. So over in the northern flank of the Torx front, we have fighting reported at Druzhba, Dashne, Torx, Leonidivka, and towards Romanivka. Romanivka is mentioned by the Ukrainians Ukrainian military. So this largely is largely the same. The Russians still operating a lot all over the place. Deep State UA reported some frontline change around Torx, but it doesn't reflect on our maps because it's just a bunch of gray zones, and generally speaking, it's still pretty much a fog of war over the Torx. Over in the New York sector, we have fighting reported over at Alexandropil. Russians have captured Alexandropil, but the battle continues around this sector. We do not know what's happening right now. Some multiple geolocation of FPV drone strike around Stara Mykolaiivka, over at Gnakivka or Gnativka, and also at Kalinove. So these are all drone strikes geolocated by military submarines team. So a lot of strikes clearly just shows Ukrainians have a lot of forces in this region trying to defend this flank. Whether is it meaningful to really defend so hard in this sector? No, it's anyone's guess. I mean, for some is view this as a good defensive position to prevent attack towards Konstantinivka from the south. But I mean, whatever, honestly speaking. Over in the Pokrovsk front, this is Pokrovsk. This is the Pokrovsk front. Over at the northern flank, we have fighting reported at Tarasivka as well as Yelizavetivka. So, and there's geolocation of Ukrainian forces along the highway. Apparently, is a Russian. Apparently, it's Russian artillery destroying some minefield along the highway. So that's all. Nothing particularly special. Over in the Minokhrad sector, we have fighting reported as Vivrove towards Pokrovsk and as well as Minokhrad. So that's about it. Very, very quiet as than usual. We don't have Lysivka, we don't have Zeleny, we don't have Shevchenko. So relatively quieter. Over in the Pokrovsk sector, at the Pokrovsk sector, we have the usual at Kotline, Vivrove, Udashne, Molodetske, Novosahievka, and Uspenivka. So this is pretty normal for this sector with the Russian trying to push in all directions. So that's all from this sector of the Pokrovsk front. Over in the southern flank of the Pokrovsk front, the Russian forces fighting at Nadievka, Preobrazhenka, and Sripny. Similarly, nothing particularly stands out in this sector. We move on to the Andrifka front. So this Andrifka, this attack I already mentioned in yesterday's SITREP as well as the frontline changes report. Watching the footages dropped by Deep State UA, it is a armored mechanized rush. Very 2022 if you ask me. And it suffers badly from artillery shelling. So that's all. So strategically wise, we have fighting reported and Andrifka. Oleksievka is basically this armored rush, which, like I said, didn't went well. At least as for the latest information that we have, fighting is reported at Constantinople, Rozliv, and towards Behate. According to the Russian sources, the Russian forces from Rozliv is now pushing towards Behate. So let's wait and see how this progress. I mean, it does make sense because this is now the closest distance from Behate. Around 3 kilometers is the range. So of course, the traveling is still going to be more than 3 kilometers. It's probably around 5 kilometers as they have to walk zigzag, right? So but we shall see. Moving on into the Velican Nova Silka front. This Velican Nova Silka front. And breaking news from this region is the capture of Vesele. And so yesterday, during the frontline changes report, we talked about the claim that the Russian forces may have captured Vesele. Since then, over the past 12 hours, we have confirmation. Geolocation of Russian forces in the northwest of Vesele confirms the Russian capture of the town of Vesele. So Russian forces have indeed taken Vesele. Vesele has never fallen to the Russians before. So the Russians is breaking new grounds in this sector. This same for Dnipro and Nigeria, Skutne, all this, because Velican Nova Silka was the city that was holding the front line. Russians have never captured Velican Nova Silka until recently. So no, everything north of Velican Nova Silka is all new grounds that the Russians have never captured before. So this is yet another town fallen, totally negating the Ukrainians' 2023 counteroffensive. And this distance moved is at least 1.5 kilometers from our previous geolocation. So very, very huge development in this sector, as now Fedorivka is now inside. The Russians will attack it next. The distance from Fedorivka is merely less than one kilometer. So the attack is going to come really quickly on Fedorivka. So strategically, we have a number of reports, mainly in the northern sector. Fighting reported at Oradne, Rozdone, Dnipro and Nigeria, Vesele, the capital of Vesele, shelling at Stishnevy, as well as fighting at Venepole. So mainly this is the situation in the northern flank of the Velican Nova Silka front. Of course, this sector was the Andrifka front at Olesievka, Konstantinopel, Rozliv, and Bahate. So that's all from this sector. Nothing in the southern flank was reported. We move on to the Zaporizhia front. Zaporizhia city and the Zaporizhia front. Long time ago, it was I used to call it the Zaporizhia line, because it's just a line, static line, and now it's not so static. Over in the Orikhiv and Kamyanske sector, Russian forces attack Orikhiv, Mali Shebaki, Stepove. The Russians announced the capture of Lubkove. The Russian Defense Ministry announced it, and there is frontline changes at Kamyanske. So this is significant as well. Also reported only just the past 12 hours. Ukrainian sources, Deep State UA, have mapped that the Russian forces have retaken the southern half of Kamyanske. Basically, all of the southern half of Kamyanske is now back under Russian control. The Ukrainians have redrawn back into the northern half as they failed to hold this bridgehead that they have really wanted. So this goes back to status quo, or rather the previous status quo, where this is actually where, like, this is actually a terrible place where the Ukrainians actually launch an attack. Like, they shouldn't have attacked here, because this is the place where the IAEA officials change hands. This bridge around here, this highway bridge along this river swampy thingy, is where they exchange hands of the IAEA officers. So the Ukrainians took advantage of the withdrawal of the Russian forces during the rotation of the IAEA, and they took advantage and took grounds in the southern half of Kamyanske. They basically, make things really complicated. This bridge is also where they used to do some POW exchanges earlier in the war, in 2023, early 2023 or maybe late 2022. So yeah, so this is actually a pretty stable line that there shouldn't be fighting. Like, this shouldn't be a fighting line. This should be a humanitarian line. But the Ukrainians going south of this position is no good. The Russians going up and do some raids in the north of Kamyanske is also no good. Like, this is just making things very complicated. So the Russians took back the southern half of Kamyanske. So let's see, because the Russians are doing some major offensive in this sector, I got a feeling that the Russians may continue to push into Kamyanske and totally wreck the IAEA rotation routines. So I'm not sure where the IAEA officers could come from. Weirdly, the IAEA people always come in from Ukraine, which is totally unnecessary. They could have just flown to Russia and just go to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant over at Nigeria and just take Russian logistics. Like, yeah, but they have to go from Ukraine and go one big round. It's like so much grandstanding, so much PR, consciousness, like, very impractical. Over in the Kherson front, the last front line to cover, I know, don't click off lah, don't like that. I know you guys want to turn off already, you know. Just, hey, nobody want to watch Crescent. I know, but like, then later I want to say things to you at the end of the year. I cannot. Russian forces shelled at Yantarne, Makirske, and Potiantivka, and some fighting is reported in the Dnieper direction, most likely around the pre-Dniprovsk, and that's all from the Kherson front. And so that's it. So this is the summary for the day of 1135 for the 3rd of April. And thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe as usual. 100,000 is the aim. So some people complain I keep saying this, but you know, if how I know if there's any new viewers, I don't know, right? So I have to keep repeating myself. And also, you know, yeah, like I said just now, you know, looking at some of the old videos, that we really came a long way, like 1,000 over days, like it's 1,100. So we have been together, you know, for those that start from the early days, you know, we have been together around 1,000 days already. It's quite shocking, you know. I never expected to cover this war for this much. So, but thank you for all the support so far, and of course, continue to support DPA. My true passion is actually geopolitics. No, the drama in geopolitics is more interesting to me. But of course, I also like military stuff, so it's not too bad. I like maps, and so it's not that bad for me. But also, of course, do support, you know, or watch all the other, you know, videos that I do in geopolitics and news. I do share a lot of my insights, or at least my own opinions about the things. You may agree or disagree, but no, I would love to find a way on the maybe defensepoliticsasia.com on a website and track some of the things that I say, you know, like my analysis, in some easy way to track, so that, you know, people can fact check my accuracy in terms of my analysis. Yeah, if not, it's a bit hard to dig back videos, right? So we shall see how this goes. I really love to do some more, you know, reforms for DPA, but yeah, it's a bit hard, but no, I try to do what I can. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next update.